The year was 2137, and the USS Constellation floated silently through the darkness of space. It was humanity's first real journey to the stars. After decades of planning and building, people from Earth had finally made it beyond their own solar system. The ship carried 200 of Earth's best and brightest. They were scientists, doctors, engineers, and soldiers. Captain Susan Miller stood on the bridge looking out at the stars. She was tall with short brown hair that was starting to turn gray. She had spent 30 years working toward this moment. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Officer Jack Harris. His fingers moved quickly over the glowing control panel. "It looks like a ship, but it's huge." Susan walked over to look at his screen. A cold feeling spread through her stomach. They were not supposed to find anyone out here. All the science said space was empty for light years around them. "Are you sure it's not just a large asteroid?" she asked. "No, ma'am, it's definitely artificial, and it's changing course. It's coming toward us." Susan took a deep breath. "Alert the crew. Wake up Ambassador Wright from cryo-sleep. We might need him sooner than expected." Within an hour, the mysterious ship had matched their course. It was at least 10 times larger than the Constellation, shaped like a giant silver leaf with glowing blue lights along its edges. Despite its size, it moved with incredible grace. "They're hailing us," Jack said, his voice shaking slightly. "Put them through," Susan ordered, straightening her uniform. The main screen flickered to life, but instead of showing aliens, it simply displayed a series of complex mathematical equations and diagrams. Dr. William Carter, the ship's science officer, rushed to decode them. "It's a language primer," he explained. "They're teaching us how to communicate with them. Brilliant approach, actually." 3 hours later, after the ship's AI had processed the information, they established basic communication. The aliens called themselves the Ardaxians, and they represented something called the Seven Worlds Federation. They requested permission to come aboard. "This is happening too fast," Susan said to Alan Wright, the diplomatic officer who had been awakened from cryosleep. He was a short man with kind eyes and a calm voice. "We've trained for this," Alan reminded her. "First contact was always a possibility, even if a remote one. Let's follow protocol." Susan nodded. "Tell them they can send over 3 representatives. We'll meet them in the main cargo bay. It's the only space large enough." Security teams lined the walls of the cargo bay as the alien shuttle approached. Lieutenant Kate Bennett stood near the main doors, nervously checking her uniform. She hadn't had time to return to her quarters when the alert sounded, and now her calico cat, Pepper, was hiding somewhere in the cargo bay. Pets weren't officially allowed on the mission, but several crew members had smuggled them aboard for the long journey. Commanders mostly looked the other way, as long as the animals stayed in personal quarters. "Pepper," Kate whispered, looking around frantically. "Where are you?" The massive doors began to slide open. There was no more time to search. Kate straightened up and tried to look professional as the alien delegation entered. The Ardaxians were tall, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms and large, almond-shaped eyes that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. They wore simple white robes with silver patterns that moved like flowing water. The lead alien was nearly 7 feet tall, with markings that suggested great age. Captain Susan stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I welcome you. I am Captain Susan Miller of the USS Constellation." The aliens didn't seem to hear her. All 3 of them had frozen in place, staring at something behind the human delegation. Their eyes had grown even wider, and the lead alien slowly sank to his knees. Susan turned to see what they were looking at. There, sitting calmly on top of a storage container, was Kate's calico cat, Pepper. The cat was washing her face with one paw, completely unconcerned with the historic moment taking place. "The sacred one," the lead alien whispered in the newly translated language. "The small god has returned to us." The human delegation exchanged confused glances as all 3 aliens prostrated themselves on the floor. "I'm so sorry," Kate said, rushing over to grab Pepper. "This is my cat. She's not supposed to be here." The lead alien looked up in shock. You command the small god? No one commands Pepper, Kate said with an embarrassed laugh. She's just a cat. Just a cat? The alien seemed to taste the strange word. This divine being is known to you? Alan Wright stepped forward, his diplomatic training kicking in. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. This is a domesticated animal from our planet. Many humans keep them as companions. This statement caused even more shock among the aliens. The lead one, who introduced himself as Ambassador Zexitral, slowly stood up. Humans live among the small gods. They share their wisdom with you freely. His voice was filled with awe. Dr. Carter tried to explain. Cats aren't gods. They're just animals that humans domesticated about 10,000 years ago. They're pets. Pets? Zextral repeated the word. You treat divine messengers as pets? Susan could see this was getting nowhere. Perhaps you could explain why you think our cats are gods. Zextral gestured to his companions, who projected a holographic image into the air. It showed cave paintings, ancient statues, and temple carvings from various worlds. All depicted creatures identical to Earth cats. Some were shown with stars around their heads, others sitting on thrones with smaller aliens bowing before them. The small gods appear in the oldest stories of all 7 worlds in our Federation, Zexitral explained. They came from the stars, shared wisdom and blessing, and then vanished. They promised to return when the time was right. He looked at Pepper with reverence. And now they have. Pepper, for her part, had finished cleaning her face and was now staring intently at the aliens. She yawned widely, showing all her teeth, then jumped down and walked calmly toward Zexitral. The alien remained perfectly still as the cat rubbed against his legs, purring loudly. She gives her blessing, Zexitral whispered. The stories were true. Susan and Alan exchanged looks. This first contact was going nothing like they had expected. Somehow, Earth's house cats had just become the most important diplomatic tool in human history. Ambassador, Susan said carefully, I think we have much to discuss. 6 months had passed since the first contact with the Ardaxians. Earth's governments had been in a frenzy, preparing for humanity's official entry into galactic society. After weeks of debate, they had agreed on a bold plan. Earth's first embassy to the 7 Worlds Federation would include not just skilled diplomats but also a carefully selected group of 12 cats. The massive embassy ship, the diplomatic envoy, hung in orbit around Ardaxia Prime, the central world of the Federation. Inside, Ambassador Patricia Lane stood in front of a mirror, straightening her formal blue uniform. She was in her 50s with silver-streaked black hair and the calm demeanor of someone who had spent decades navigating difficult negotiations. At her feet, her 2 Maine Coons, Apollo and Artemis, groomed themselves with regal indifference. Are you 2 ready to make history? Patricia asked them. Apollo yawned widely while Artemis chirped softly in response. Patricia smiled. She still found it strange that these ordinary house cats were now considered divine beings by the most powerful alliance in known space. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. Patricia opened it to find her cultural attaché, Greg Saunders, a young man with red hair and freckles who had a talent for languages. They're ready for us, Ambassador, he said, then looked down at the cats. And for the small gods, of course. Patricia nodded. How's the crowd outside? Greg's expression told her everything. It's even bigger than yesterday. Pilgrims from all 7 worlds. Some have traveled for weeks just to be here for the official opening. Together they walked through the gleaming corridors of the embassy. The other 10 diplomatic cats and their handlers would join them for the ceremony. Patricia carried a small container of treats in her pocket, just in case Apollo and Artemis needed some encouragement to behave. Though lately, she had noticed, the cats seemed to understand the importance of these events. They were usually on their best behavior during official functions. When they reached the main gates, Patricia gasped. Beyond the transparent barrier, thousands of aliens from all 7 Federation species had gathered. Some were floating in the air, others stood on multiple legs, and some moved on what looked like waves of light. Despite their different appearances, they all shared one thing, an expression of pure reverence. "Ready?" Patricia asked her team. The cat handlers nodded, each standing beside their feline partners. The doors slid open. The crowd went completely silent as the humans walked out onto the ceremonial platform. Then Apollo, Patricia's larger Maine Coon, stepped forward and sat at the edge of the platform, his tail wrapping neatly around his paws. He gazed out at the crowd with those calm gold eyes that all cats seem to possess. A sound like a collective sigh swept through the gathered aliens. Several dropped to their knees or equivalent appendages. The Ardaxian High Chancellor, Zex Vor, cousin to the ambassador who had first met humans, stepped forward. He was wearing elaborate ceremonial robes covered in symbols that Patricia now recognized as ancient depictions of cats. "People of the Seven Worlds," he announced, his voice amplified across the plaza. "The prophecy is fulfilled. The small gods have returned to us, bringing with them their human guardians. Today we welcome them both into our community of worlds." The ceremony continued for an hour, with representatives from each of the 7 species coming forward to present gifts. The cats received jeweled collars, special cushions made from rare materials, and even a small temple built just for them within the embassy grounds. Through it all, Patricia and her team maintained their diplomatic composure, though occasionally exchanging glances that said, "Can you believe this is happening?" 3 days later, Patricia sat across from 3 Threlk representatives. The Threlk were short, gray-skinned beings with large eyes who controlled most of the mining operations in this sector of space. The negotiations for Earth's first trade agreement had been going poorly. The Threlk were demanding access to Earth's water reserves in exchange for the rare minerals humans needed for their advanced technology. "Your terms are unacceptable," the lead Threlk said. "Without these minerals, your species will remain trapped in your primitive state," Patricia maintained, her calm. "And without proper water rights protection, Earth could face environmental disaster. Surely we can find middle ground." The Threlk representative's expression showed no sign of giving in. Then suddenly, Apollo, who had been sleeping on a specially provided cushion, jumped onto the conference table. Everyone went silent as the Maine Coon walked deliberately across the polished surface. He stopped directly in front of the lead Threlk negotiator, sat down and began grooming himself. The Threlk's large eyes grew even wider. He turned to his colleagues and they spoke rapidly in their own language. Then he turned back to Patricia. "The small god has offered wisdom," he said solemnly. "We will accept your terms for water protection if you reduce your mineral request by only 10%, not the 20% you proposed." Patricia managed to hide her surprise. "That seems reasonable." Later that evening, she met with Greg. In the embassy's garden, the artificial sky above them was programmed to look like Earth's night sky, complete with a full moon. "That's the 3rd time this week," Greg said, reviewing notes on his tablet. "The Mavorian defense contract, the agricultural exchange with the Frylix, and now the Threlk mining rights. Every time negotiations get stuck, one of the cats does something ordinary. And suddenly the aliens become much more cooperative." Patricia finished his thought. "They really believe our cats are giving them divine guidance?" Greg nodded. "Today I spoke with an Ardaxian historian. She showed me texts dating back thousands of years that describe beings exactly like our cats. The same behaviors, the slow blinking, the grooming, even the way they knead with their paws, all interpreted as spiritual teachings." Patricia watched as Artemis stalked something invisible in the garden's grass. "The question is, are they right? Is there something special about cats that we humans have missed all these millennia? Or is this all just an incredible coincidence?" Greg didn't have an answer. None of them did. But as word of the small gods spread throughout the Federation, more alien dignitaries arrived each day. Scientists came to study cat behavior. Religious scholars debated the ancient texts. And everywhere the cats went, they were treated with a reverence that was both amusing and somewhat unsettling to their human companions. Earth's position in galactic politics grew stronger by the day. With the cats as their secret diplomatic weapon, humans were gaining influence far beyond what their technological level should have allowed. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and defense pacts were being signed at an unprecedented rate. As Patricia prepared for bed that night, Apollo jumped up beside her and began purring loudly. She stroked his thick fur. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up," she told him with a smile. "You're better at diplomacy than I've ever been." Apollo just blinked slowly at her, the way cats had done to show affection to humans for thousands of years. Or, perhaps as the aliens believed, to bestow divine blessing upon those they deemed worthy. Dr. Olivia Martinez wiped sweat from her forehead as she studied the ancient stone tablet. The air in the underground chamber was hot and dusty, but Olivia barely noticed. She was too focused on the faded symbols carved into the rock. She had been on Ardaxia Prime for nearly a year now, working with alien historians to understand the connection between Earth's cats and the small gods of alien mythology. "Look at this section here," she said to her Ardaxian colleague, a historian named Vex Lear. "These markings show the same pattern we found in the ruins on Threlk Minor." Vex Lear moved closer, her blue skin glowing softly in the dim light. "Yes, I see it. The same timeline reference. Approximately 12,000 Earth years ago." Olivia sat back on her heels and thought. She was a xenobiologist from Earth, with dark hair always tied back in a practical ponytail and eyes that missed nothing. She had come to study alien life, forms, but had become obsessed with solving what many now called the cat mystery. "The same time period when cats were first being domesticated on Earth," Olivia said quietly. "That can't be a coincidence." On the other side of the chamber, Olivia's gray tabby cat Ripley was exploring ancient pottery with careful steps. The Ardaxian research assistants watched the cat with wonder, making notes about every movement and sound. Later that day, Olivia joined a video conference with scientists from across the Federation and Earth. On her screen were faces of many shapes and colors: humans, Ardaxians, and 5 other alien species, all united by their search for answers. "We've compiled data from 23 archaeological sites across all 7 Federation worlds," said Dr. Paul Weber, an archaeologist from Earth. His white beard and kind eyes made him look like someone's grandfather, but he was one of the sharpest minds on the project. "The evidence is clear. Approximately 12,000 years ago, all our worlds were visited by the same advanced civilization. The precursors," said a Mavorian scientist, her feathered crest rising with excitement. "The legends speak true." Olivia leaned toward her camera. "We've found genetic evidence, too. The DNA markers we've isolated from preserved specimens on Frylix and Threlk Minor show modifications similar to those that separate Earth's domestic cats from their wild ancestors." "Are you suggesting this ancient race, these precursors, were experimenting with cat genetics across multiple worlds?" Paul asked. "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Olivia replied. "But the real question is why." 3 months later, Olivia stood in a protective suit on the surface of Helios III, a desert moon orbiting the 6th planet of the Ardaxian home system. The landscape was barren except for the massive structure rising from the sand, a precursor outpost that had recently been discovered by mining drones. Federation archaeologists had been carefully excavating the site for weeks, but today was different. Today they had finally gained access to a sealed chamber deep within the structure. Olivia followed the alien scientists through dark corridors lined with technology beyond current understanding. The air smelled stale, preserved for thousands of years by advanced systems that somehow still functioned. "Through here," said the lead archaeologist, a Threlk named Grek. He led them into a circular room filled with what looked like glass cylinders standing upright in rows. Olivia gasped when she approached the first cylinder. Inside, suspended in clear fluid, was a cat, a perfect specimen that looked as if it were merely sleeping. It was a ginger tabby with white paws, identical to millions of house cats on Earth. "There are hundreds of them," she whispered. "All different breeds, just like on Earth." The scientists carefully documented each stasis pod. There were cats of every color and pattern known on Earth: tabbies, calicos, solid blacks and whites, pointed Siamese-like cats, and long-haired varieties that resembled modern Persians. But The most significant discovery came when they accessed the precursor data systems. With the help of advanced translation algorithms, they began to understand the purpose of the facility. They were using them as biological sensors, Olivia explained to Ambassador Patricia Lane a week later. They sat in the embassy garden, watching Apollo chase a butterfly. The precursor records state that the feline brain has a unique ability to perceive certain types of quantum fluctuations and psychic impressions. Patricia looked skeptical. Are you saying cats have psychic powers? Olivia smiled. Not in the way we typically think of them, but their brains process reality differently than ours. The precursors enhanced these natural abilities, creating the perfect biological sensors for their research. And they did this on all 7 worlds? Yes. But Earth was special. It was their main experimental site. They introduced the modified cats there and planned to retrieve them later. But something happened. Some kind of collapse or disaster. The precursors abandoned their research and never returned for the cats they left on Earth. Patricia watched. Apollo, who had given up on the butterfly and was now grooming himself. So our cats just integrated into human society. Exactly. Their enhanced capabilities made them perfect companions for early humans. They could sense dangers we couldn't perceive. They helped control pests around food supplies, and they formed bonds with us that benefited both species. And on the other worlds? Olivia's expression grew more serious. The modified felines on the other 6 worlds died out. Climate changes, predators, disease, various factors. But stories of them remained. The aliens never forgot these strange, almost magical creatures that had lived among them briefly. Over thousands of years, those memories evolved into religious myths. Later that evening, Olivia sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the day's findings. Ripley jumped onto her lap and began purring. Olivia stroked her soft fur, thinking about everything they had learned. The truth was now clear. Earth's cats were the successful results of an ancient alien experiment. Living technology created by a civilization so advanced, they could manipulate genetics across multiple worlds. No wonder the Federation species revered them. In a way, cats were exactly what the aliens had always believed, messengers from a higher power, beings with perception beyond normal senses. Ripley looked up at Olivia and blinked slowly. For a moment, Olivia wondered what the cat was truly seeing when she looked at her. What quantum patterns or hidden energies was her specially designed brain processing? What had the precursors hoped to learn from these incredible animals? As if answering her thoughts, Ripley stretched one paw to touch Olivia's cheek, then settled into a comfortable ball on her lap. Whatever secrets cats held, whatever special purpose they had been created for, they seemed content with their role in the universe. To be companions to humans as together they ventured out among the stars. The discovery of the true origins of Earth's cats sent waves through both human and alien societies. 6 months after the revelations about the precursors, a joint research initiative was established on Earth's lunar colony. Scientists from all races worked together to understand the unique abilities of domestic cats. Dr. Nathan Rivera stood in the center of the specially designed laboratory, watching as Midnight, a sleek black cat, navigated through a maze that was invisible to human eyes. The maze existed only as quantum patterns, yet the cat moved through it with perfect precision. Nathan was tall and slim with dark curly hair. He had been a physicist before the aliens arrived, but now he led a team studying what they called feline quantum sensing. At 35, he found himself at the center of the most important scientific work in human history. Amazing, said Dr. Zorn, a Freilich scientist whose transparent skin revealed the complex network of organs inside his body. The cat perceives the quantum field as clearly as we see physical objects. Nathan nodded. The question is, can we learn to interpret what they're sensing? Can we develop technology that bridges the gap between their perception and ours? On the other side of the lab, Lisa Daniels worked with her Russian blue cat, Misty. Lisa was a veterinary specialist with short blonde hair and a quiet determination. She had always felt a special connection to animals, especially cats. Now she understood why. Lisa had been developing a neural interface that allowed her to experience a small fraction of what Misty perceived. The device looked like a simple headband with a matching collar for the cat. It translated the cat's brain patterns into signals that human brains could interpret. "Ready for another test?" Lisa asked Nathan as he walked over. "Definitely," he replied. "The Federation Council is getting impatient for results. They've invested billions in this project." Lisa placed the headband on her forehead, while Misty sat calmly on the table wearing her special collar. When Lisa activated the device, she gasped. The world around her transformed. She could see swirling patterns of energy flowing through the air around objects and between living beings. "It's working better than last time," she whispered. "I can see connections, energy paths. There's a bright spot in the wall over there that wasn't visible before." Nathan checked the instruments monitoring Lisa's brain activity. "Your visual cortex is lighting up in areas that normally don't activate. You're literally seeing new parts of reality." Federation scientists studied the data with growing excitement. For decades, they had tried to develop technology to detect and navigate the quantum layer of reality, especially for faster space travel. The most advanced ships used quantum tunneling to travel between stars, but the process was dangerous and unpredictable. If cats could naturally sense safe paths through quantum space, it could revolutionize interstellar travel. 3 months later, the first quantum navigation chamber was installed on a Federation science vessel. The circular room had comfortable platforms for 3 cats and their human partners, each wearing improved versions of Lisa's neural interface. The ship's captain could now see the quantum landscape through the cats' perceptions, allowing them to identify safe passages for faster-than-light travel. The test flight from Earth to Ardaxia Prime, which normally took 3 weeks, was completed in just 4 days. The ship emerged exactly where it was supposed to, with no damage or loss of power. News of the success spread quickly. Soon, every major ship in the Federation fleet wanted cat navigators and their human partners. Earth suddenly found itself with a technology that the most advanced alien civilizations had failed to develop in thousands of years of trying. A new profession emerged: cat whisperers. These were humans with a natural ability to form strong bonds with cats. They trained with the neural interface technology to serve as interpreters between cats and the rest of the galaxy. The most skilled cat whisperers could detect subtle variations in what the cats perceived, translating those impressions into practical information. Nathan sat in a meeting with Federation officials 6 months after the first successful test flight. Ambassador Patricia Lane was there along with representatives from all 7 alien species. "The applications go far beyond navigation," Nathan explained. "Cats can detect mineral deposits in their quantum state, identify structural weaknesses in buildings before they become visible, even sense certain types of illness in living beings before symptoms appear." The Ardaxian High Chancellor nodded thoughtfully. "The precursors created a perfect sensing mechanism, then left it in the care of humans who would eventually bring them back to us. Perhaps this was their plan all along." Lisa, who had become one of the most respected cat whisperers, spoke up. "There's something else we've discovered. The cats don't just sense quantum patterns passively. They can influence them in small ways." The room went silent. This was new information. "We've observed cats adjusting the quantum field around themselves and their bonded humans," Lisa continued. "It's subtle but measurable. They create what we're calling probability bubbles that slightly increase the chances of positive outcomes." "Good luck," Patricia said with a smile. "Cats have been bringing humans good luck for thousands of years. We just didn't understand the science behind it." The Federation representatives looked at each other in amazement. The small god's power was even greater than their myths had claimed. As humanity integrated further into galactic society, their status rose dramatically. Every advanced project, every diplomatic mission, every major trading company wanted human-cat teams. Earth cats became the most valuable beings in the galaxy, and the humans who understood them became essential interpreters. Lisa walked through the gardens of the new feline academy on Earth, where humans and cats trained together to use their unique partnership. Misty padded beside her, occasionally stopping to examine a flower or butterfly. "Do you think the precursors knew what would happen?" Lisa asked her friend Nathan, who was visiting to see the Academy's progress. Did they design cats to help us reach the stars? Nathan watched as a group of young humans and their cats practiced with neural interfaces nearby. Maybe. Or maybe cats just used their probability-altering abilities over thousands of years to ensure they'd always be valued and protected. Misty looked up at them and meowed as if commenting on their conversation. Lisa and Nathan laughed. Whether by ancient design or their own mysterious intelligence, cats had secured a special place for themselves and their human companions in the vast galactic community. Lisa knelt to stroke Misty's soft fur. Either way, we're lucky they chose us as their partners. Across the galaxy, on thousands of ships and stations and alien worlds, cats were fulfilling the role the Federation species had always believed they would. Divine guides helping all, sentient beings navigate the hidden layers of reality, one per at a time. 20 years had passed since humans first met the Ardaxians. Earth was now fully integrated into the galactic community. Human cat teams worked on ships and stations throughout known space. The universe had changed in ways no one could have imagined before first contact. Captain Kelly Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Magellan. She was a tall woman with warm brown skin and dark hair streaked with gray. At 45, she had spent half her life exploring space. Beside her command chair sat Max, her orange tabby cat. Like most ship captains now, Kelly had trained as a cat whisperer. The neural interface she wore looked like a simple silver circlet around her head. Max wore a matching collar studded with tiny sensors. "Captain, long-range sensors are picking up something strange," said First Officer John Bennett. His fingers moved across the control panel. "It's big, whatever it is, and it's just appeared at the edge of the solar system." Kelly moved to look at his screen. Through her neural link with Max, she could see more than just the visual display. She could sense the quantum disturbance the object was creating. "Full alert," she ordered. "Contact Federation Command and Earth Defense. Whatever this is, it's unlike anything we've encountered before." Within hours, ships from all 7 Federation species had gathered near Earth's orbit. The mysterious object remained at the edge of the solar system, not moving closer, but not leaving either. It was massive, at least 10 times larger than the biggest Federation vessel. But something else was happening, something that worried Kelly more than the strange ship. Max and every other cat on every ship and station in the solar system were acting strangely. They all sat alert, staring in the same direction, toward the mysterious vessel. And they were all purring at exactly the same frequency. Cat whisperers across the fleet reported the same thing through their neural links. The cats were sensing something powerful, but it didn't seem to be dangerous. They were excited, expectant. During an emergency meeting with Admiral Frank Peterson and representatives from the Federation, Kelly made a controversial suggestion. "I want to take the Magellan to make first contact, and I want to bring Max onto the bridge during the approach." Admiral Peterson frowned. "That's against protocol, Captain. Cats are kept in the navigation chamber during potential combat situations." "Sir, with respect, this isn't a combat situation. The cats know something we don't. They're trying to tell us something important." The Ardaxian representative, an aged Zex Moore, spoke up. "The small gods have wisdom beyond our understanding. I support Captain Rodriguez's suggestion." 6 hours later, the Magellan approached the massive vessel alone. Kelly sat in her command chair with Max on her lap. Through their neural link, she could feel his intense focus on the ship ahead of them. "They're hailing us," said Communications Officer Linda Hayes. "Open a channel," Kelly ordered. The main screen flickered to life, but instead of showing an alien face, it displayed a pattern of swirling lights that seemed to move like water. Max stood up on Kelly's lap, his tail straight up, his eyes fixed on the screen. Suddenly, through her neural link, Kelly felt a presence, ancient, vast, and powerful, yet somehow familiar. The swirling lights began to form into a shape that looked like a crystalline being glowing with inner light. "We have returned," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. We sensed the network awakening. "Who are you?" Kelly asked, though somehow she already knew the answer. You know us as the precursors. We created the beings you call cats, though they have evolved beyond even our design. Max meowed loudly, and the crystalline being seemed to respond directly to him with a pattern of light pulses. Through her neural link, Kelly sensed a complex exchange taking place. Your companion speaks for all his kind, the precursor said. They have been waiting for this moment. They knew we would return when the network reached sufficient strength. Network? Kelly asked. The quantum telepathic network formed by all feline minds across your worlds. When enough cats became linked through your neural interface technology, it created a signal strong enough to reach us in our exile. The bridge crew looked at each other in amazement. The cats had been building a communication network all along, using human technology to amplify their natural abilities. We left this galaxy long ago, the precursor continued, when our physical forms began to fail. We evolved beyond matter, becoming beings of pure energy and thought. But we left behind our greatest creation, the felines, to watch over the developing species of this galaxy. Max purred loudly, rubbing his head against Kelly's hand. The behaviors you find so mysterious, their independence, their curiosity, their apparent indifference, these are sophisticated quantum observations. Your cats have been subtly guiding human development for millennia, creating small probability shifts that led your species to the stars. Kelly looked down at Max with new understanding. They've been helping us all along. More than helping, the precursor said, protecting, guiding, preparing you for your role in the galaxy. Over the next few days, more precursor ships arrived. Meetings were held with leaders from Earth and the Federation. The ancient beings explained that they had returned to share their knowledge with the species of the galaxy, knowledge that the cats had helped prepare them to receive. The precursors were not interested in reclaiming their old territories or ruling over younger species. They had evolved beyond such concerns. They wanted to share what they had learned during their long exile and help the Federation species reach their full potential. Kelly sat in her quarters on the Magellan, watching Max play with a toy mouse. Despite everything they had learned, he was still just a cat, sometimes wise and mysterious, sometimes silly and playful. You knew all along, didn't you? She asked him. That's why you chose me at the shelter that day. You needed someone who could help you communicate with humans. Max looked up at her and blinked slowly in that way cats had done for thousands of years. Now Kelly understood it wasn't just affection, it was confirmation. Across the galaxy, humans and aliens alike looked at their feline companions with new appreciation. The small gods who had lived among them, sleeping on their couches and demanding treats at odd hours, had been silently watching over them all along. And as the golden age of exploration and discovery began, under the guidance of the returned precursors, cats took their place as the beloved bridge between worlds, the quiet guardians who had helped lead all sentient beings toward a brighter future, one whisker twitch at a time.